Meghan Markle thought this skit was funny. Netflix didn't. And now, her whole empire might be on the line. So picture this. You just got fired. Your multi-million-dollar contract is crumbling, and instead of laying low, you decide to roast your bosses on camera. That's exactly what Meghan Markle did. And let's just say the fallout was nuclear. She was supposed to quietly wrap up reshoots for With Love. Meghan Season 2, a project already bleeding from delays, burnt-out staff, and a budget spiraling out of control. But Meghan had other plans. Instead of a graceful exit, she planned a spectacle. Sources say Meghan was secretly cooking up an Instagram rollout to keep her name hot once the cameras stopped rolling. But this wasn't a thank you video or behind-the-scenes tribute. Nope, she went full-on parody mode, SNL style. She filmed a high-production sketch where she dressed up as Netflix CEOs Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters' fake mustaches. Stoots, accents, the whole 9 yards. The scene, a spoof of the Netflix boardroom. Meghan played both execs, mocking pitch meetings, making fun of their decisions, especially the one where they counseled With Love, Meghan. And of course, she made herself the victim, the joke. Netflix was clueless. Meghan was brilliant. Every punchline hit the same note. They fumbled the bag, not her. And here's the kicker. She was serious about releasing it. The footage wasn't some shaky iPhone video. It was a polished, edited reel, planned and scheduled to go live on her Instagram. But then everything fell apart. Her own team. Her agent, her manager, panicked. They watched the final cut and realized this could blow up everything. Instead of backing her, they ran it up the chain, straight to Netflix. When Ted and Greg saw the video, rage. Pure rage. They didn't see a joke, they saw betrayal. This wasn't satire. This was Meghan rewriting the narrative, painting Netflix as the villain, and herself as the misunderstood creative genius they failed to recognize. The sketch went even further. Scenes of Meghan being fired, storming out only to return. In a power trip fantasy where she becomes the CEO. Yes, she played that version of herself too. It wasn't comedy anymore. It was war. Netflix didn't wait. She got an immediate warning. If that video goes live before her contract ends, legal action will hit her instantly. No delays. No mercy. Just court. Meghan was forced to stand down, but the chaos already unleashed. That one sketch torched everything. Netflix pulled funding fast, first thing to go. The entire marketing rollout for With Love, Meghan Season 2. Millions gone overnight. Late-night bookings canceled. She was supposed to appear on Kimmel, Fallon, and Seth Meyers. All scrapped. No tour, no buzz, no finale. Just dead air. And all of it because of one skit. But what really rattled Netflix wasn't the humor. It was the intent. Buried under fake accents and goofy costumes was a cold, sharp message. You didn't fire me. You underestimated me. And that stung because they knew she wasn't completely kidding, and just when you thought it couldn't get more unhinged, it did. In the same sketch, Meghan took her parody even further. She wasn't just mocking execs. She made herself the new CEO of Netflix, rewriting the company's entire content strategy on the spot. At one point, she joked about canceling every show that wasn't hers, brushing off global hits as generic Netflix filler. It was less satire and more wishful thinking on steroids. The vibe? Total fever dream. What Meghan saw as empowering, everyone else saw as delusional. But here's the wildest part. She really believed this was going to help her. She thought this skit would make her look bold, hilarious, and totally unbothered. She pictured the internet rallying behind her, cheering her on for clapping back at the big execs and sticking it to the machine. But Hollywood, it runs on whispers and war rooms. And in that world, this wasn't seen as bravery. It was career suicide. Word spread like wildfire. Studio execs, agents, producers, everyone was talking. And Meghan, She didn't even realize how fast the ground beneath her was crumbling. By the time she caught wind of it, calls had already been made. Doors were quietly closing. Inside, Netflix panic flipped into damage control. This was no longer just about a sketch. This was about brand reputation, and Meghan Markle had just lit a match in the middle of their boardroom. Greg Peters, one of the execs she impersonated, reportedly took the parody personally. This wasn't funny to him. This was disrespect at the highest level. A talent they invested in, publicly mocking their leadership, then imagining herself in charge. From Netflix's perspective, this wasn't just biting the hand that fed her. It was trying to burn the whole kitchen down, reportedly told staff in a closed door meeting that allowing this kind of behavior to go unchecked would send the wrong message. They let Meghan's skit slide? What would stop every disgruntled creator from airing their dirty laundry through parody? So the axe came down hard, not just on her press tour, but on everything surrounding her show. Marketing budgets weren't just cut, they were nuked. Posters were pulled from locations. Ads were canceled. Promotion slots were given to other shows. It was like with Love, Meghan never existed. Internally, staffers were told to stop discussing the show unless absolutely necessary. Meghan, meanwhile, was spiraling. She'd gone from being Netflix's pet project to a full-on liability. And even though she tried to act unfazed publicly, insiders said she was calling around frantically trying to figure out how to do damage control. She told friends that Netflix was overreacting and that the sketch was lighthearted commentary, but nobody was buying it. The biggest blow, her own team backing away. Her manager stopped returning calls for days. Her agent quietly removed her from the agency's active promotion list. Publicists that once scrambled to book her were now suddenly unavailable. And just like that, the phone stopped ringing. One producer who had worked on the show from the beginning said it felt like watching a slow-motion car crash. They described Meghan as someone who couldn't read the room, who believed her version of events so deeply she was blind to how it looked from the outside. And when Netflix clapped back, it wasn't just personal, it was professional. It was about showing they wouldn't be held hostage by someone's ego, no matter how famous they were. And while Meghan was scrambling behind the scenes, Greg and Ted were locking things down. Every appearance, every panel, every interview tied to her name was being cut from the lineup. They weren't taking chances anymore. Meghan had become a wild card and Netflix wasn't interested in playing games. But Meghan wasn't done. If anything, the pushback only fueled her. She started making plans to post the video anyway after her contract ended. Meghan's plan now was simple. We paid out the clock, then dropped the video like a digital grenade. She figured once her contract officially ended, Netflix would lose any legal power to stop her. And technically, she wasn't wrong. But she underestimated how fast the industry could close doors when it feels betrayed. Behind the scenes, she was already laying the groundwork. Contacts were being tapped. She reached out to a couple of independent producers looking for someone to help amplify the sketch when it went live. She even floated the idea of turning the parody into a full-blown miniseries for Instagram, mocking not just Netflix, but Hollywood in general. She thought it would be edgy, viral, disruptive. Everyone else thought it sounded like a meltdown in slow motion. The reaction from the industry was swift and cold. Streaming platforms, already wary of controversy, began by this point. The industry wasn't just stepping back from Meghan Markle. They were actively distancing themselves. Talent agencies began circulating quiet warnings. No collabs. Number. Cosigns. Nothing that could even look like support. What used to be whispers about Meghan being difficult had turned into a clear message. She was now a full-blown risk. One exec didn't even try to sugarcoat it. They reportedly called her uninsurable. Even late-night hosts who once rolled out the red carpet were now slamming it shut. Kimmel pulled the entire segment they'd prepped with clips from With Love. Meghan, Fallon, gone. Seth Meyers. There was a tentative sit-down on the books. Vanished without a trace. No one wanted to be that outlet. The one who handed Meghan a mic to light the match all over again. But instead of retreating, Meghan doubled down. She leaned harder into her online persona. Her team began dropping cryptic teases, vague statements about creative freedom and the power of satire. Instagram stories popped up, moody lighting, dramatic piano in the background. Meghan staring into the camera with captions like, "The truth always finds the light. You can silence a contract, not a voice." It was the kind of buildup you'd expect before a bombshell documentary. But what was coming wasn't just a reveal, it was a gamble. Meanwhile, the ripple effects of her sketch were hitting. More than just her career. People who worked on with love, Meghan. They started getting cut loose fast. Marketing staff were let go. Post-production crews had their contracts canceled mid-edit. Stylists, editors, assistants, all suddenly unemployed. One crew member said it felt like getting burned just for standing too close to the fire. And here's the kicker. This wasn't just a Netflix problem. Remember Spotify? Yeah, they had already cut ties with Meghan months earlier. But now, that fallout was being dragged back into the spotlight too. Insiders from the streaming giant leaked that Meghan had clashed with producers, ignored deadlines, and demanded control over everything right down to the background music on episodes. Suddenly, the narrative clicked. This wasn't just bad luck. This was a pattern. Still, Meghan clung to the belief that the sketch, the same one that nuked her press tour, would somehow flip the story in her favor. That once people saw her version of events, they'd get it. That they'd rally behind her for standing up, for speaking out, for being bold. But the truth? The timing couldn't have been worse. Public opinion had cooled. The audience she'd built through polished podcasts, charity work, and glossy magazine covers now saw someone unraveling in real time and in Hollywood. Perception is everything. By late August, Netflix's legal team sent a formal warning. No lawsuit yet, but the message was crystal clear. Any future content that misrepresents or defames Netflix leadership will be met with litigation, enough to make her pause, but not enough to stop her. Now, Meghan's plan is simple. Wait until the fall. Let the contracts expire, let the headlines cool, and then drop the video, a digital Hail Mary. One last spark to ignite what she hopes will be a comeback. It's bold, it's risky, and depending on how the world reacts, could be her final curtain call or the start of Act 2.